This is a babam. That's right, a babam. If you don't know what a babam is, this is what a babam is. Now, a babam is a picture of the effects of sin and how it looks cute and, maybe you want to play with it a little bit. And yeah, it's got a little sparkly fire up here. It's kind of like a 4th of July. You think it's harmless. But in the end, it explodes and kills you. Just like sin. All right, we're going to do it today. We're going to talk about Bruno because that's what Gospel Coalition says we need to do. I feel like it was just yesterday I was making fun of Gospel Coalition because their big, Ukrainian relief effort is going to be they're going to take money from you, the listener, maybe not you, but their listeners, and then they're going to translate their important materials into Ukrainian to help the refugees in this difficult time. And I remember joking saying, yeah, sure, that's what they really need right now, 5 gospel issues in the new Batman movie. And I was just joking, but obviously I knew that that's the kind of content they produce. And lo and behold, a few days later, they're doing a article about the movie Encanto and how it points to Jesus. Now, I am not saying that doing articles kind of analyzing modern movies is worthless. I'm not saying that at all. In fact, it could be very helpful because the reality is that Disney, the company Disney, as quality as their content is, they make really quality content. The music is great. The visuals are great. A lot of times the stories are pretty good as well. The problem, though, is that they're attempting to subvert reality at almost every turn. And so to put out content to help, people think through how to watch a movie and how to think about the story that a movie's telling you could actually be very helpful. But this is not helpful at all. This is as helpful as my little story about the babam. I just made that up, right? I used to know a guy. I'm not going to name him because though he has done me dirty, he's not a public figure. He would say stupid stuff from the pulpit all the time. Like he'd be like, "Oh, I could tell you I could show you the gospel in everything. Give me the back of a cereal box and I can show you the gospel from it." And it's like, "No, you can't. That's stupid. That's stupid. The only way you could do that is if you're making stuff up and it stretches beyond belief, right? And so not everything points to Christ in the way that, the Old Testament pointed to Christ. And see, that's what they're trying to do here. See, there's whispers about Christ in this movie, according to Ryan McDonald, who is a pastor. My goodness gracious. In any case, if you have not seen the movie, I'm going to give actually a synopsis of this movie. And then even though I am no critic, I am no movie critic, but I do have a brain, I'm going to tell you why about this movie from a Christian perspective and all of that. Now, what's good about this is I actually like this movie. I like this movie a lot, and I like the music, I like the story, and all of that. But I'm not going into this, eyes closed. I'm going into it wide open, and eyes wide open, and I understand that they're trying to subvert reality here. But I think this movie in particular is actually a really good picture, not of Christ, but of the failure of Disney, the failure of the pagan secular worldview. Because the bottom line about Encanto, in my opinion, is Encanto is a story that is very self-consciously attempting to subvert reality, but it simply cannot do it. It can't do it. It's an attempt to subvert reality, but it has to live in reality. And so because it has to live in reality, it is a total failure at what they're trying to do, which is so perfect because Encanto, more than it points to Christ, it actually points to the abject bankruptcy of the Antichrist worldview. I'm going to explain that in just a minute. But this article is so stupid. Basically, it makes the point that this character, Bruno, which is, he's not a main character, but he is, a major character. He is a prophet. So everyone in this family has superpowers, and except for Mirabelle over here. And his superpower is he can see the future, right? He does little incantations, and he can see the future. And so he ends up getting exiled because people don't like to hear the future, right? So in the famous song, "We Don't Talk About Bruno," At one point, he prophesies to a lady that her fish is going to die, and then the fish dies. And then another time he says to the one guy, hey, you're going to grow a gut, and then he grows a gut. And then he talks to actually, there's a priest in this movie, and he talks to the priest and says, hey, you're going to lose your hair, and he loses his hair. And so people don't like that because they think he's actually causing it. So they exile him. They don't want to hear it anymore, and all of that. And so he goes into hiding. In fact, he doesn't really go into hiding. He's still in the house, but he kind of hides in the floorboards and stuff like that, and all of that. And so this article tries to make the case that just like Jesus, he was an exiled prophet for telling the truth. And then only when they accept him in faith does the family come back together. That's not part of the movie at all, by the way. That's a total stretch. The family comes together at the end because at the end they realize that Mirabelle actually is bringing them all together. She likes Bruno. She brings Bruno back. And then their whole house, their magical house is destroyed. And they don't have magic anymore. And then the whole community comes together to help them rebuild their house. They don't need magic. They just need each other. It's actually a kind of a heartwarming tale, in my opinion. And again, I'm not doing this from a naive perspective. I'm not coming at it from a naive perspective. My eyes are wide open here. It is a pretty heartwarming tale that at the end, when the whole town comes together to help them build because the whole point is like, they use their magical powers to help the town, right? They use all that's all they do. They serve the town, serve the town, serve the town. And then at the end, the town serves them. It's so beautiful. It's a beautiful story. And Bruno, by the way, is voiced by one of my favorites, John Leguizamo. In any case, so it doesn't point to Christ. This is a huge stretch. And, he tries to give you, three, reasons why, like he's just like Christ. And he's not. This is a stupid analysis. This is dumb. And the thing is, the whole idea here is that, we can talk to our kids about Christ using the movie Bruno. And it's like, or Encanto. And I'm like, you could, but you're actually lying to your kids about the movie Encanto. This is not what the movie Encanto is about. And so for you to say that it is, when your kids grow up, and by the way, my 7-year-old probably would realize that I was lying to him if I told him this. Don't lie to your kids. See, this is beyond stupid. It's actually dangerous. It's beyond stupid. It's actually dangerous because, number one, you're lying to your kids about how Bruno points to Christ. Bruno doesn't point to Christ. Number two, it's actually missing huge opportunities to actually talk to your kids about real issues in this movie because there is so much to talk to your kids about in this movie. In fact, I've talked to my 7-year-old about some of the actual worldview issues in this movie that I admit that I like and he likes as well. And so, like, here's the reality. We're going to talk about it. We're going to go into it, right? We're going to go into it. But before we do, people instantly started noticing. This is William Wolfe here. He says, Disney, we are literally trying to corrupt your kids with a radical LGBT agenda. I remember a few years ago when LGBT agenda, everyone said that was a conspiracy theory. And of course, it wasn't then, and it still isn't. And Disney's going to make all their characters gay or something like that. Who cares, right? So, but the point is, people are noticing the timing here. They talk about that. We're going to make all our characters gay to groom your kids. And then Gospel Coalition is like, no, Encanto points to Christ. What do you mean? It's like, this is beyond stupid. It's dangerous. If you follow Disney's lead to like analyze movies the way that this guy has analyzed this movie and to pretend that the bomb is a perfect representation of sin, like you got, like you're just going to leave it at that. I'm going to leave it at that. Anyway, so Protestia was all over it too, right? Protestia instantly noticed how stupid this is, and it is stupid. It is stupid. But I'm going to stop here for a second because I do want to analyze this movie. Now, there's going to be spoilers here. I doubt anybody in this audience cares, but if you haven't seen Encanto and you really want to go in fresh, don't watch the rest of this video. But honestly, you don't need to go in fresh with a movie like this because here's the synopsis, right? I think I told you this. I already told you. Encanto is a great picture, not of Christ, but a picture of how bankrupt the pagan attempt to subvert God's reality is. Because Encanto is self-consciously attempting to subvert God's reality, but it fails. It can't do it. And this always happens. Disney will fail at its attempts to subvert reality. It will continue, and it's going to ramp it up. And it's going to fail again and again and again. Now, here's the reality. So this movie is about a family, the Madrigals. This is the Madrigal family, right? And the whole story is that this woman here, the grandmother, she was running with her husband and 3 twins. She had 3 twins, and she was running away from the Europeans who were taking over their town or something. It's a little ambiguous, but they're running for their lives, and the Europeans are chasing them, or someone's chasing them. I mean, it's ambiguous. But in any case, as they're running, her husband ends up getting killed, right? And so Abuela, when she's a young lady, she's now alone with 3 twins, 3 babies. They're babies. And she finds this magical candle. And this magical candle ends up creating like a whole house for them and a whole town for them. And it gives them magical powers. So everyone that's a part of this family by blood has magical powers, except for Mirabelle, which I already said. Some reason she didn't get a magical power. But the point is, though, that she's like the matriarch of the family. And this family is completely female rule. This is a matriarchy. There's no question about it. As you can see, there's a few men here. This guy married this woman, Julieta. This woman's power is that when she cooks you food, she can heal you. And this man here, Felix, marries Peppa. Her power is the worst power of all. Basically, the weather is affected by her mood. And she's actually, I already said this before, she's like the stereotypical Latina lady. She's very emotional and she's hot and cold, like stuff like that. She'll cut you, that kind of thing. And it's so funny because I mentioned this already, but Disney put all of the Latina stereotypes into one character and then made her white. She's the whitest character on the screen, as you can see. She's even a ginger, and she's the Latina stereotype. It's hilarious subversion, but that's what they're doing, right? They put all the negative Latina stereotypes into the white character. In any case, so that's what this family is. It's ruled by the women. In fact, both of these men, they're kind of passive, kind of more submissive men. Felix a little less so, but definitely him. He's kind of a goofball, accident prone, that kind of thing. Everything's run by this abuela here, this woman, and then the 2 sisters here, the mother and these 2 mothers. And then the 3rd kid, the 3rd twin was Bruno, right? And Bruno's not in this picture because he's exiled. So this whole family is run by women. And that's what Disney is attempting to subvert reality there, because what should be happening is that, Felix and, what's this guy's name? I forget. Oh, man, I forget his name. Whatever. The 2 men should be running the family, obviously. But no, it's actually the abuela who is running the family. Now, what I told my son at one point is that, this film is showing you how important a father is, because the father died early on. He would have been the patriarch of this family, but he died before any of these people were born except for these 2. And in order to attempt to replace the father, they have this magic. And so it's like the importance of a father is so vital to the thriving of a family that they have to attempt to replace that authority or that power with magic. And so everyone has a magical power that would actually end up replacing the father. So you've got different kinds of things. You've got the healer here. You've got the person who's kind of emotionally in charge of the family. You've got the manager. Abuela ends up being the manager of the family, and she's horrendous. This whole movie is about how Abuela is like a tyrant, and she almost destroys the family. So this matriarch, which you always hear this, like, if women ran the world, it'd be so peaceful. That is absolutely false. If women ran the world, it would be more violent than it is. It's just that simple, because regularly women overcompensate for the fact that they're not men. And so they rule with an iron fist, and everyone needs to be just so. And that's the big conflict in this family. In fact, at the end, she says, I was holding on too tight because I didn't want to lose you like I lost my husband. And that's very sad. But the thing is, she almost destroyed the family by overcompensating for the fact that her husband had now died. She was trying to be the husband, and she couldn't do it because she's an abuela. What should have been happening here is that she either should have been remarried and found another husband, or because she's a widow, she should now be taken care of by this guy and this guy. And they probably would have done it, because these 2 guys are like the nicest guys in the world. They're the 2 nicest people in this movie, that's for sure. But in any case, so the whole point of this movie is to establish this matriarchy, and it's like, and then you even give magical powers that make no sense for a girl. Like, for example, this is Luisa over here, and she's a man, essentially. She looks like a man. She, strong like a man. She speaks like a man. In fact, the person who voices this character is, I believe, bisexual, and she has a kind of a deeper voice. She sings really well. I think that the song that she does is actually a pretty good song, but this is a gender bender here. And so they're putting this forward as this is, she has the magical powers, and now she can be the strong man that this family needs. And in fact, that's actually not how it works out. She attempts to be strong, but she can't do it. In fact, there's a whole song about how she can't do it. And this is what I mean. So like they put forward this subversion of reality, but they still have to live in God's universe. Like the absence of the abuelo, the grandfather, is so apparent. It is so apparent by the way that the abuela is just a horrible tyrant. And of course, she learns her lesson at the end, so that's good. But this family is dysfunctional. It's completely dysfunctional, and it's very clear to me that it's dysfunctional because of what happened in the beginning. That's what Abuela says. I didn't want to lose you too, and so I was ruling the house with an iron fist and being a jerk, right? So again, they're attempting to present to you a story that's empowering to women. And by the way, Bruno is not the hero of the story. Mirabel is. In typical Disney fashion, the woman, the little girl, is the hero of the movie. They're trying to subvert reality. But the bottom line here is that this whole movie is attempting to create this matriarchy, and it simply can't. Every single one of these people has a dysfunction. It's totally dysfunctional, and it's all led by the matriarch, Abuela. And again, even with the gender bending over here, right, with Luisa, there's a whole part in this movie where she's like, I'm holding this whole family together. I'm very strong. I'm never nervous. I'm never worried. But she totally is, and she wishes she could be more feminine. In fact, there's a part in the movie where she's kind of like dancing through clouds, and she wishes that she could just relax and do girl things, but she can't. She's got to hold the family together, and it's a total disaster. Again, this movie just completely attempts to subvert reality, but it fails. And the reason it fails is not because Disney wants it to fail. They're not telling us a secret message that like patriarchy is actually good. No, the reason it fails is because Disney, they want to give you an agenda, right? So that's what Luisa is. That's what, having the two dumb men is. They want to give you an agenda. That's for sure, right? They want to have the matriarchs and the women running the family. But because they also want to give you a good story, because I do think that Disney cares about the quality of its stories. They want to tell a story that's believable, right? They want subverting reality to be believable. But the problem with that is subverting reality can't be believable. It simply can't. And so they have to have a touch point, and their touch point is reality. And so reality tells you that when you have a father who is dead, it creates a lot of problems. When you have a father and now the mother is running the household, it creates a lot of problems. If you look at single mothers and the rates at which they abuse their children and stuff like that, it's pretty high because they're overcompensating for the fact that the husband's gone. This is reality, and so they have to present a realistic enough story so that they can kind of slip in their subversion. But because it's realistic enough, then it doesn't actually work. It shows you that their subversion is doomed to fail. It's doomed to fail. If you had a story where the matriarch, everything was the same here, but the matriarch was totally perfect and stuff like that, it would suck as a story. By the way, that's what Star Wars Episode 7 is. It stinks as a story, and everybody knows it. Because why? Because Rey is not a believable character. Rey is not a believable character. They're not in touch with reality at all. Nobody believed that story in The Force Awakens. And so that's what happens when you try to ramrod an agenda without having a touch point in reality. And even that movie, to some degree, has a touch point in reality. But in any case, so these are the kinds of things I talk about with my son. It's like, the magic tried to replace the father, but it couldn't. The magic tried to replace the father, but it couldn't. In fact, Bruno is a great character because Bruno actually should have been the one to step up, right? Bruno should have been the one to step up and take charge of the family. He ends up caving to the woman here, Abuela, his mother, and letting his mother run him out of town for telling the truth. And the reality is that that if Bruno had not done that, probably things would have gone better. In fact, when Bruno returns, things do go better. You know, it's not a perfect, you know, story because Bruno's still kind of a weirdo, but it's interesting that once the man who should have been in charge of the family at that point, you know, comes back, things are better. Now, of course, Mirabel's the reason he comes back, and Mirabel's the hero of the story and all of that. And of course, it's a little bit weird, but that's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. And so that's the kind of stuff you can analyze in a movie. I mean, I'm not saying that my analysis is like so deep or perfect. It isn't. But it's what I'm saying though is that there's a lot to talk about in Encanto. If you want to talk about Encanto, if you don't care about Encanto, that's also okay. But this kind of surface level garbage. Bruno points to Christ. No, he doesn't. The only thing that's similar to Christ is that Bruno is a prophet. I mean, is that the level we're looking? We're going to talk to our kids at that level? Oh, Bruno's a prophet just like Jesus. It's like, are you crazy? This is stupid. And it's also dangerous. It's stupid and it's also dangerous because it ignores the actual issues of this movie. The actual things that are worth talking to kids about. The fact that, mother shouldn't be in charge of an entire family because this is how it goes typically. Like that kind of stuff, right? In any case. So there's one more thing I want to talk about at this movie. Hold on, let me get the picture again. So one of the conflicts in this movie is the relationship between Mirabel and her sister, Isabella. Now, Isabella's she's like a feminist, right? But she's a feminist secretly. So she's like, her magical power is that she can create any kind of plant, right? So what she does, what her grandmother forces her to do is to create beautiful flowers all over the place. And she can just, on a whim, just grow a flower. And she's perfect. She's beautiful. Her hair is combed perfectly. Everybody loves her. In fact, there's a character named Mariano, this guy. He's like a typical Chad. But not really a typical Chad. He's beefy. He takes care of his mother. This is actually a pretty masculine guy in the movie. He's in love with Isabella and wants to marry her. In fact, they're betrothed to be married. But it's all at the behest of the abuela. The girl doesn't actually like Mariano. The girl doesn't like Mariano. She wants to do her own thing. And in fact, there's a song at the end where Mirabel and Isabella, it's kind of like Let It Go, where she comes out of her shell, and it's like crazy colors. She's growing weird flowers, and they come out, and she ends up having like blue hair and stuff. And so she's like a feminist. She doesn't want to get married. She just wants to do her own thing. She's punk rock, It's a good song, right? But she's not interested in Mariano. She's not interested in the girly life. She wants to have a life of freedom and stuff like that. She's a feminist, right? And so she ends up not being interested in Mariano. She's honest with him, and he's very sad about it. Mariano's very sad about it. But the thing is, at the end, Mariano ends up going on a date with this one. With what's her name? Oh my goodness, what is her name? Dolores. Dolores, right? And Dolores is also beautiful. Her magical power is that she can hear, anything from a mile away. Like she can hear any small sound, she can hear it. That's why she's going like this with her ear. But she's a traditional woman, though. She's very interested in Mariano. The whole time she was engaged to this one, she was kind of secretly interested in him. She thought he was a hunk and all of that. She's very traditional. She sets the table, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, so Disney presents this as like a kind of her let it go moment. She's a feminist. But actually what ends up happening, again, because this is a touch point of reality, Mariano ends up with the better woman. She's beautiful, and she's also traditional. She actually wants to be a woman. She doesn't think that, she should be in charge of the relationship. She thinks Mariano's a hunk, and look at him. I mean, he is. There you go. He's a hunky guy, right? And so again, Mariano over here dodges a huge bullet. I mean, if he would have gotten married, this would have been a disaster for him to marry Isabella. Yeah, sure, she's pretty, but she's crazy though. She's absolutely crazy. And over here we've got Dolores. Way better. Way better wife. So Mariano, hats off to you, buddy. You dodged a huge bullet. In any case. So there's A.D. Robles' review of Encanto. By the way, when I went to Joel Webbin's house a few weeks ago, he told me, I could not believe this. I almost walked out of the house right then and there. He told me that he did not like the music in Encanto. You crazy? Like, even if you don't like the movie, like the music? What a nut! In any case, I hope you found this video helpful. By the way, if you've made it to the end here, I have a request. If you've ever been told by anyone to not watch my content or to not talk to me or that I was dangerous or whatever, send me an email, ad@adrobles.com. I've got a funny idea that I think will help promote my podcast. So if you've ever been warned against me or anything like that, please send me a message. I'll keep it anonymous, but I want to hear about it. In any case, I hope you have a great weekend. God bless.